Senator Jeff Merkley has been representing Oregon in the U.S. Senate since 2009. The Democrat from Myrtle Creek is on the Senate Appropriations Committee, the Foreign Relations Committee, among others. He's here with an update on the goings-on in Washington, D.C. that affect us here in Oregon. Senator Jeff Merkley, welcome back to Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thanks so much, Ken. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Well, we've seen an escalation of tensions in the Middle East, especially between Israel and Lebanon. The war in Gaza continues. What are your thoughts about what we need to do to avoid getting involved in a wider conflict there?
Well, the threat of further escalation is significant. Israel is talking about potentially attacking oil facilities in Iran. Iran is saying if that happens, they may attack oil facilities among American allies like Kuwait or Saudi Arabia. So diplomacy is in full gear right now, and we're hoping it succeeds so that this doesn't see a further, broader, more intense war.
What are your concerns right now, the way things stand, especially with the escalation of Israel and Lebanon?
Well, I'm very, very concerned. Essentially Hezbollah in Lebanon is a proxy for Iran. Iran has now launched ballistic missiles at Israel. Israel is promising further retaliation. So it is something that everyone should be paying attention to. The role that America has played has really been to say we must prevent this broader war from happening. But despite best efforts in that direction, it continues to spread. I think the next step is going to depend very much on how Israel responds to Iran.
You called out Postmaster General Louis DeJoy for the Delivering for America plan. You called it Delaying Mail for America plan. What are your concerns there, and what can Congress do about it?
Well, my concerns are that first-class mail has really been delayed. He's taken apart the processing facilities in Springfield, Eugene, and in Medford, and the result is mail is much more slow getting from place to place. Imagine that you're down in Southern Oregon and to mail to your neighbor, you have to have it trucked up to Portland to be sorted and then trucked back. So those delays are unacceptable. And think about how mail plays this critical role for our seniors in delivering medicines. I asked people around Oregon to share stories, and then I read them on the floor of the Senate. And those stories were things like, my credit card bills have come late, and then mail is slow sending off my check, and then I get a late fee, that's unacceptable. Or small businesses saying, oh, we can't get our products out. Or seniors saying, yes, that one aspect after another of their lives is compromised by poor mail service. So this is a big deal. There is no joy in DeJoyville, and I've been leading this effort to say that this must stop, this dismantling must stop. DeJoy now has stopped it across the country, but unfortunately he had already pulled equipment out of our processing center, so now Senator Wyden and I are insisting that equipment be reinstalled.
Now, we've had vote by mail in Oregon for more than 20 years now. What do you say to critics who are concerned about election integrity as vote by mail spreads to more states in the country?
Now, vote by mail is the most secure system because it stops the election day shenanigans. And what I'm talking about is it's commonplaces to say, there are groups I don't want to vote, so I will proceed to move the precinct voting location to confuse people. We will understaff it so there are long lines. That sort of systemic system to block the ballot box for millions of Americans, absolutely unacceptable. And the solution is early voting and vote by mail. It is the gold standard, and America should have the right of every citizen to vote by mail.
What did you think about the DMV situation where they registered more than 1,200 non-citizens?
Well, it really demonstrated how you can have a bureaucratic snafu that needs to be absolutely fixed, not let that happen again. But what's interesting about that, as all those folks who were not citizens who were mailed ballots, only 1 out of 200 actually voted. So here are hundreds and hundreds of people getting ballots thinking, oh, does that imply I'm conligently? It shows that non-citizens are very cautious about voting. They want to make sure that that they get this right. So it shows that non-citizens voting is not a systemic problem. What is a problem is election day efforts to block people from being able to cast their ballot.
We've just finished the biggest dam removal project in U.S. history with the demolition of the last 4 dams on the Klamath River. Now it's a matter of restoring the habitat and the ecosystem there. What's the role of the federal government in this process as we move forward now that the dams have actually been removed?
Well, first, it's so exciting to see these dams removed. These are the largest 4 dams to ever be removed in America. And they open up hundreds of miles of tributaries of habitat for the lampreys and for the salmon, of course, restoring the natural course of the river. But we have to do some work on that, and that's why I'm so happy that we just secured, Senator Wyden and I just secured this multi-million-dollar grant to help with some of that restoration work. There's more to be done for sure in terms of the quality of the lake water in Klamath Lake and restoring the 2 breeds of sucker that live there. That's an endangered species challenge. But opening up these miles of natural stream flow is a huge victory, and I'm going to be celebrating that down in California this weekend. 3 of the dams are in California, 1's in Oregon.
One of the things that we've been kind of following here is you joined Washington State Representative Adam Smith to introduce the Hedge Fund Control of Americans' Home Act. What is that, and why is it relevant?
Ken, the dream of homeownership is dying. All middle-class America that was able to buy a home, their children are not able to buy a home. The prices are so high. Why is that happening? Well, a significant factor, not the only factor, but a significant factor is that millionaires and billionaires through hedge funds, private equity, they are buying up the houses. Back in 2011, we didn't have any big corporation that owned over 1,000 houses. Now, Invitation Homes owns 80,000 homes, and they just settled a lawsuit because of their egregious practices. But if you hear about somebody trying to buy a home and they're outbid by an all-cash offer, that's probably a hedge fund. That's probably a private equity. And we are in a situation where these houses should be homes for families, not a profit center for Wall Street. So we need to kick the hedge funds out of this business. They have no business being there.
Congress just approved a stopgap funding measure to keep the government running through mid-December. What happens between now and then, and what funding is at risk?
What happens between now and then is November 5th. And it was so a challenge to get this continuing resolution done. And we are going to see if this changes the leadership in the House and Senate for next year. But what we have is a foundation for the fiscal year 25. It started on October 1st, so we're now in that fiscal year. What we have is the opportunity to utilize the bipartisan Senate bills. I sit on the spending committee. It's called the Appropriations Committee. We worked out bipartisan solutions as we did the previous year. If the House will cooperate with us, take the politics out of the process, we're ready to move forward in December and get these 12 spending bills passed into law and not burden the next administration with the crisis of failing to have spending bills in place for America.
Senator Jeff Merkley, thank you for being on Eye on Northwest Politics.
You're most welcome. Thank you for inviting me.